Hello, everyone. We are a group of representatives from Mahidol University International College. Today, we are going to present a topic related to the ecological justice class, the Chevron-Texaco case in Ecuador. Here are the members. Myself, Nadanay Somnam, Wang Lechi, Thanapon, Natapong, and Napasadon.
For the background information, Texaco Gulf was operated between 1964 and 1992 in Ecuadorian Amazon region. It includes 1.5 million acres for petroleum exploration and exploitation. Later on, the new contract was signed to limit area of the concession to 491,355 acres. The company drilled 399 wells in 15 petroleum fields, and approximately 627 toxic waste water pits were left behind along with the other elements. Obsolete and highly polluting tech were functioned during the years of exploitation. Roughly around 2 million acres of deforestation was attributed to this operation in northern Ecuadorian Amazon, as well as massive water and contaminated with toxic substance and heavy metals, which caused a major impact to the river and estuaries. It has been estimated that the company dumped tons of toxic drilling and maintenance waste and 19 billion gallons of produced waste into the environment without any treatment, involving 16.8 million gallons of the crude oil was estimated to be spilled from the main trans-Ecuadorian pipeline when Texaco was operating.
From the action of the company above, it will be guaranteed that there will be threats and harm to the local natives, indigenous people, and the environment surrounding. Firstly, deforestation. Deforestation is the clear cutting or clearing of the removal of a forest or stand of trees from the land, which is then converted to a non-forest use. Deforestation can involve conversion of forests of lands to farms, ranches, urban uses, oil plantations. The most concentrated deforestation occurs in tropical rainforests. Nextly, malnutrition. Malnutrition is a serious condition that happens when your diet does not contain the right amount of nutrients. There are various types of malnutrition. The first one being undernutrition, which makes children in particular much more vulnerable to diseases and death. Next is micronutrients related malnutrition. Is the inaccordance in intake of vitamins and minerals, often refers to as micronutrients. Micronutrients enable the body to produce enzymes, hormones, and other substances that are essential to proper growth and development. With that being said, the children that has the symptom of malnutrition can lead to the possible potential causes of underdevelopment and falsely developed physical properties. Next being water contamination. Water pollution is the contamination of water bodies, usually as a result of human activities. Water bodies including, for example, lakes, rivers, ocean, aquifers, and groundwater. For example, releasing inaccurately treated water into natural water bodies can lead to degradation of aquatic ecosystems. Lastly, soil pollution. It is defined as the presence of toxic chemicals in soils. It is high enough concentrations to pose a risk to human health and or the ecosystem. It basically means that soils are polluted will not be able to be used in any format.
Next, the impact of development, we can be divided into 3 points: environment, indigenous people, and some measures to improve. We can know the great influence of oil extraction on the local environment and indigenous residents. The photos from side A to C. The jungles change, streams turn inky, and the trees become stunted, leaves blanketed and squanched up. And then you can see picture D, fire dancing over the treetops, its technique to burn waste gas. Then I summarize the 3 main effects for environment. First of all, Oil and gas affect the atmospheric environment when exposed from the sun's ultraviolet rays. Oil, gas, volatiles, and other harmful gases generate chemical reactions or the greenhouse effect, destroying the ozone layer. Secondly, we don't need to elaborate here. Everyone knows that where oil pollutes the soil, no grass grows. Thirdly, the pollution of groundwater. The water resource we live in are polluted that endemic cancer villages often occur. Over 3 decades of oil drilling in the Ecuadorian Amazon, Chevron dumped more than 16 billion gallons of toxic wastewater into rainforests, leaving local people suffering a wave of cancers, miscarriages, and birth defects. You can see two pictures above the slide. Women say that I will try not to have a miscarriage. When you heard try this word, you can experience that the local residents are full of helplessness and bitterness. And on the right side, the girl has eye problems due to birth defects. When oil companies start to explore for oil, they will cut down forests, destroy our homes, build roads, and block rivers. Petroleum exploration usually involves a series of blasting to understand reserves and underground conditions. This process is called seismic testing. Earthquake testing can damage homes, wildlife, and land. Environmentalists say oil has been pumped from here for almost 4 decades, and the result is 1,700 square miles of industrial contamination, consisting of humans falling sick, wildlife wiped out, and rivers poisoned. In picture A, yellow line is boys in Ecuador, green line is national level, and the red line is girls in Ecuador. We can see the prevalence of children malnutrition continues to rise from 2006 to 2040. So I learned that in the past 8 years, oil exploration has had an enormous effect on the children of local indigenous people and greatly increased their prevalence rate. Obviously, boys living in Ecuador had a more serious impact about children malnutrition and keep staying high. In picture B, compared about the distinct age groups in indigenous and non-indigenous part, it's not difficult to find that the incidence of cancer among young and middle-aged adults in Ecuador is much higher than that of non-indigenous residents who are between 15 and 44. The incidence of cancer is as high as 42%. As the age increases, non-indigenous residents have a higher risk of cancer. Maybe drilling for oil will bring a relatively stable income to this country, but the impact on its environment is unpredictable. Toxic chemicals in wastewater often overflow or seep into groundwater. By establishing and maintaining a wastewater treatment system, these problems can be effectively avoided. Contaminated crude oil generates more waste and pollutes air and water. In particular, the use of refinery equipment with high purity or cleanness to refine oil will cause more serious pollution. The use of clean crude oil for refining produces less pollution.
Following over a decade of constant filed class actions, petitions, appeals, and accusation of fraud, the proceedings of the Texaco Chevron case, which began in 1993, has yet seen any clear conclusions to provide definite answers to the legal dilemma plaguing Ecuador, its people, and its environment. Two class action lawsuits were filed between 1993 and 1992 in the US. They soon ended on forum non-convenient grounds in 2002 and were shifted back to Ecuador, where Chevron is protected by impunity rights. Although Chevron accepted jurisdiction of Ecuador in the US, they immediately challenged jurisdiction in Ecuador once the case has been shifted to Ecuador. This highlighted the weight of Chevron's unethical legislation tactics against the fight for truth and justice. Next slide, please. Two major camps exist in this legal battle. The defendant, Texaco Chevron, advocated by the Amazon Post and New York-based medias, and the prosecutors, the Unión de Afectados por Texaco, acronym UDAPT, advocated by a number of NGOs and independent media. In this battle for truth, opposing facts are revealed as both sides vigorously fight in the legal battlegrounds between Ecuador and the United States. The Amazon Post dubbed Chevron's views and opinions on the Ecuador lawsuit suggested three major claims to innocence. Firstly, Texaco has followed the demands of the Ecuadorian government and successfully cleaned up all toxic wastes, turning former oil plants into plantations. The Post claimed the responsibility for the oil spills to Petro-Ecuador, picture on the right, since 1964 when they first began operations, whom they claim is reliable for the oil spills and environmental impacts in Ecuador. Lastly, as a last resort, Chevron has claimed the fraudulence of the case. Furthermore, Chevron disregarded the reports of the independent investigator appointed by the Supreme Court of Ecuador. Not only did Chevron dismiss the persecutors' cases, Chevron lawyers also in recent bribery scheme exposed by Reuters have bribed the Ecuadorian judge. In 2014, the US District Court of New York declared the Ecuadorian verdict void after an Ecuadorian judge testified against the Ecuadorian ruling. In a staggering turn of events in the International Tribunal, the same judge testified again, but revealed that Chevron bribed Ecuadorian judges to overturn the ruling to protect Chevron's interests. Although a resounding victory went to the UDAPT in 2011, since then, however, no compensation was paid to the affected indigenous people or the Ecuadorian government. According to the FDA and UDAPT, Frente de la Defensa de la Amazon, Chevron's contract with the Ecuadorian government in 1973 held Texaco Chevron accountable to adopt measures to take care of the environment. However, for the past 18 years of intense litigation, where Chevron used over 60 law firms, 2,000 lawyers to fight in trial, all that money spent on defending its reputation and damaging business model, while not a single dime paid in compensation, after it lost a $9 billion lawsuit to the FDA, owing much to the indigenous people and the environment of Ecuador. And in 1972, the Texaco management memo revealed a consensus to keep the spill a secret and to avert our responsibility to maintain the interests of the company. In a recent released short documentary by Vice in the series I Was There, Stephen Donziger, a human rights lawyer, now under house arrest by the order of the US federal court, came out to the media and told a shocking truth behind the disaster he dubbed an apocalyptic nightmare. According to him, the business model of Chevron is a business model based on privatizing profit and socializing costs to the most vulnerable people on the planet. Chevron argued that they lost the case because the legal team representing the villagers paid nearly $300,000 in bribe in Ecuador. However, as facts are revealed, we must stand firm with the facts and truth. Next slide, please.
In conclusion, even though the case has already technically ended in 2011, with Chevron having to pay $9.5 billion to the affected community, no payment has been made due to the US District Court ruling the Ecuadorian judgment a fraud and racketeering activity, finding the claim unenforceable. This case, however, are still going on in multiple countries. Delays have been a norm because the companies continue to defend itself. And as a result, the cases are being rejected in many countries. There's no doubt that the release of billions of gallons of toxic oil has affected the environment and the locals on the scale that's hard to ignore. The extent of the contamination is unreal, and calling this a fraud is unacceptable. It's time to wake up to the reality and focus on the social cost rather than the monetary value one can benefit from. We will end this presentation with a quote by Stephen Donziger, the human rights lawyer. He said, quote, "The idea that you can leverage resources such that communities understand that they have the power to form alliances around the world to hold the perpetrators of these environmental crimes and human rights violations fully accountable, such that they will stop doing it. We will have a better world," end quote.